and welcome back to a new video, and in today's video we are going to be reading books about Winter Olympic sports. If you are new here, hi, I'm Carol, and in this channel we talk mainly about books. But as I just said, in this reading vlog, in this spoiler-free reading vlog, we are going to be reading some books where the main characters, they have a job that could be on the Winter Olympics, or they are in the Winter Olympics, because the Winter Olympics is coming up. Or maybe by the time you're watching this video, we are already in the middle of the Winter Olympics, which is an event that happens every 4 years, and that I will definitely be using it as an excuse to read some of the books that are on my TBR. And you know, there are many things for us to celebrate this year with the Winter Olympics. The first one is that my country has a chance of getting a medal, even though we are not a country where winter sports is common, because our winters don't include snow and a weather that is appropriate for practicing winter sports. But apparently we do have a chance at getting a medal, and also I will be going to be using the Winter Olympics as an excuse to be reading some of the books on my TBR, as I just said. And the first book I'm going to be reading in this video will be The Favorites by Layne Fargo. This is a book that has been on my TBR for, I think, a year. I've been really curious about it ever since it came out, because I saw the greatest reviews, and the reviews that I saw, this book sounds like something I would really enjoy, even though The Favorites is a retelling of one of my literary nemesis, which is Wuthering Heights. The Favorites is a Wuthering Heights retelling, which I personally don't like. Wuthering Heights, I thought that book was extremely boring, but I saw the greatest reviews about The Favorites and I'm really curious about it. And also I recently saw someone saying that The Favorites really reminded them of Spinning Out. I think it's the name of the TV show, the Netflix TV show about the figure skaters that got cancelled after one season, and this happened I think like 5 years ago, and I still think this is the biggest mistake Netflix ever made, which was canceling Spinning Out, because that TV show was a masterpiece, and I wish it hadn't been cancelled after one season, because that was heartbreaking. But apparently The Favorites, according to some people, it really reminded them of Spinning Out, and as a person that really enjoys Spinning Out, this only makes me even more excited to experience The Favorites. But basically, from what I know, from what I understand, The Favorites follows Katerina and Heath, I believe is the name of the characters, and they are figure skaters or ice dancers, might be the specific sport that they practice. And I think Katerina is from a very wealthy family. Heath is not from a very wealthy family, but they are pair skaters or ice dancers. Figure skaters, like they do the competition in pairs. They dance on the ice in pairs, and they are each other's pair. It's competition, and apparently they are very toxic, as in Wuthering Heights. But apparently in this book we follow the story of these characters as they meet, and all the drama that involves these characters and their competition, their careers. And apparently again they are very toxic, and this book feels almost like reading a gossip magazine, and this book just sounds really interesting. So let's start by reading The Favorites, because this book has been on my TBR for a year. I think I got it shortly after it was released, because I was just so curious, and I'm going to use the Winter Olympics as an excuse to finally read this book. Hello, so I'm currently 14% through reading The Favorites, which is not much, but I already have opinions. First of all, just before I forget to say it, as of the time I'm filming this clip, the Winter Olympics is actually starting today. I think the Winter Olympics started today. I watched 5 seconds of a curling competition. But very on theme. And you know what also is very on theme? It's just The Favorites. I picked up my Kindle, I don't know why. But because The Favorites follows Katerina and Heath, who are Olympic ice dancers. They won Olympic medals. Part of the story of this book apparently will take place during the Olympics. A very important moment will take place during the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics, so very on brand for this video because they're literally Winter Olympics athletes. They are athletes that competed in the Winter Olympics and they won medals in the Winter Olympics in this fictional version of the Winter Olympics. And first of all, the favorites follows Katarina and Heath. They come from not a very wealthy background. He comes from a variety of different foster homes. He doesn't really know his parents, and as a child he meets Katarina. Katarina, she comes from a middle class family, but her parents passed away when she was young, and she ends up having the guardianship being passed on to her older brother, who is still very young, and also he doesn't know how to take care of her. He's drunk, he's an alcoholic, he struggles with substance abuse, he's quite toxic and abusive towards her and Heath, and they are not in the best financial position right now as of the start of the book. And Katarina, she has this passion, she wants to become an ice dancer, and we are following on their journey. And basically the book, it tells the story through a variety of chapters from the point of view of Katarina, because the book opens with Katarina saying, so there is this documentary that they made about us, and I'm going to tell the story through my point of view, and I'm going to tell my side of the story. So we have chapters where we follow Katarina telling us what happened, what is the story behind something that happened apparently during the Sochi Olympics. I'm still not on that part, I'm only 14% through the reading that book, so we are going still to figure out that part. But between the chapters there are kind of like interludes where you get interviews from the people surrounding them, that were surrounding them during the time in their life, kind of as if they were being interviewed for the documentary. So the way the book is written, for me, it's really interesting. I'm liking the writing style, I'm liking the characters. They're unlikable, but they're unlikable characters that are interesting to read about, and I'm really enjoying the favorite so far. I'm only 14% through reading that book. Also, because the chapters are quite short and we have those interlude parts, it's very fast-paced. It's quite fast to read. I read a little bit last night, and I started reading last night and I didn't notice that I got 14% through reading that book, because you don't notice time passing and you don't notice how fast you're reading this book because it's just so fast-paced so far. Also, yes, this book is a Wuthering Heights retelling, which I heard about it, but it's very obviously a Wuthering Heights retelling for those who read Wuthering Heights. Not only because of the name, because she's called Katarina and he's called Heath, while in Wuthering Heights, well, Catherine and Heathcliff. They live in the moors, which is kind of like this area, because this book, it starts, Katarina was born in the outskirts of Chicago, in this area called the moors, because her family, her great-great-great-great-great-grandfather bought this land in this secluded area in the outskirts of Chicago, and their house is in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by some vegetation, I think, I don't know, I forgot the name, but it's surrounded by some vegetation. It's in the middle of nowhere. They don't really have neighbors surrounding them. It's also near a lake, and Heathcliff, he doesn't know his parents. He's not white. Just like in the book, he's not white. He's racially ambiguous. People look at his name and they think he might be from a certain background. They look at him, they can tell if where he's come from, if he's Arabic, if he's Latino, if he's something else, his family comes from somewhere else. He's very racially ambiguous. No one really knows in which box to put it, which is very much Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights. They have the romance in the favorites is definitely less toxic, a little bit less toxic so far than Wuthering Heights. But if you read Wuthering Heights, there are just so many things that you can pinpoint and see that yes, this is a retelling from Wuthering Heights. There's, for example, also in Wuthering Heights, you have this family. It is the very perfect family, and they're kind of like rivals to Heathcliff. And in this book, we just met a very perfect family that are kind of rivals to Heath and Katarina. In this family, we have the brother who is really nice or seems to be really nice. at least in the book so far. Then we have the sister who is a little bit more jealous, a little bit more snarky, just like in Wuthering Heights. There's just so many parallels between the two books that if you read one book, it's easy to see the resemblance and that the other is a retelling. But it's a retelling that, while for those who read it's obvious, the plot is quite different. There are definitely certain tropes that seems to be the same, but the plot is a little bit different. And as a person that didn't like Wuthering Heights, I'm liking The Favorites way more. I'm liking the retelling way more than I liked Wuthering Heights because of the plot, because of the pacing, the writing style, and yes, I'm going to continue reading The Favorites. Also, let's watch the Winter Olympics because it starts today, and reading The Favorites right now, it's very own brand. So yes, let's go back to reading The Favorites. So far, it's a really interesting book. I'm only 14% reading the book. I think on page 81 on Kindle, and it's living up to hype so far. So let's get back to reading, and I will come back whenever I have any thoughts about the book. Hello! So it's been a few days and I finished reading The Favorites by Layne Fargo, and that book, I knew it was very hyped up, I knew it was very popular, but that book was really good. It was surprisingly good. It was the first 5 stars I gave this year because I started reading it and you just don't want to put it down. I didn't want to put it down, this book. I feel like the fact that it was such fast-paced, it felt like fast-paced because the chapters weren't very long. It only helped this book, and I don't know how else to say it, but this book was just so surprisingly good. Reading this book felt like reading a gossip magazine. It felt like a mixture of Daisy Jones and the Six, right? I think it's the name of the book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but it felt like Daisy Jones meets Magnolia Parks, but meet it in a nice skating way, in a more refined way. This book is also very definitely Wuthering Heights retelling. There are so many elements from Wuthering Heights that are in this book, but some of them are a little bit different. Some of them are just adapted to this more modern, contemporary ice skating universe that this book takes place, but this is very obviously a Wuthering Heights retelling, and in my opinion this book is better than Wuthering Heights, and I just had such a wonderful time reading this book. There was absolutely nothing about this book that I would say that I would criticize about. I like the pacing, I like the writing style, the story, the characters. You had great characters. We love Layne in this household. There are also characters that are more morally great. Some of them, like you have Alice Dean, who is a morally great character. At times he did some things that it was appealing and it wasn't right, but there were others that he was there and he definitely saved the day. Katerina and Heath, they start so toxic, but their character arcs is so wonderful to see. There is a plot twist in this book where I didn't see this plot twist coming until we started to reach the end. And then when we were reaching the last 2 chapters, when we were reaching what was going to happen, then I started to manage to put one and one together, try to figure out what the plot twist would be. But throughout most of the book, I had no idea that was going to happen. My theories about what would be the great event on the life of these characters that changed their lives forever, or how they called it in this book, the Sochi incident, I had no idea until the end of this book. I'm going to be honest, at times I felt the need, I wanted to go to the last page of the book and see how it ended, but in this case I'm glad I didn't do it. I don't think it would have ruined the book for me, but it definitely would have changed my experience reading this book. And overall, The Favorites, just surprisingly amazing. I knew it was popular, I knew people tend to love it. It has very high ratings on Goodreads, but still very pleasantly surprised. I read it on my Kindle because I actually got the favorites. I got a Kindle edition of this book shortly after it was released because everyone was talking about it, and then I just kept putting it off. And now I kind of want a physical copy of this book one day soon. Not today, not tomorrow, but like in the future. I do want a copy of this book because I have a feeling I will want to reread it because it just felt wonderful. It felt like reading a costume magazine, but in the best way possible. It felt like reading People, where you are getting all the juicy gossip, but also in a way that doesn't feel too tabloid focused. And it's such a wonderful book, and The Favorites was my first 5-star book of the year because, again, just wonderful. Now let's move on to the next book in this vlog, and this is the moment where I have to admit that I was trying to look for books with sports from Winter Olympics as an important part of the plot of the book, and I was struggling to find books that didn't fit the two most popular sports, the two sports that are not necessarily very popular. One is definitely very popular, the other it's kind of popular in terms of books and shows, but I couldn't find it, so I am picking the second book's video will be a hockey romance because hockey romances, they are very popular. There are a lot of them, and also I do have quite a bit of them on my TBR, and I want to get through my TBR a little bit because my TBR is getting quite extensive, and as I'm grateful to have quite an extensive TBR, but I do need to admit that my TBR is quite extensive, and it would be a good idea to start reading some of the books from my TBR before I go out and continue buying more books. But basically, this is the moment where I admit that I was trying to look for so many different sports to read in this video, but I was really struggling to find a book that wasn't ice skating, ice dancing, or hockey. I looked through Amazon, especially on the Kindle Unlimited page, so I wouldn't need to buy it, but also just books in general. I asked Google, I asked ChatGPT, and the options. I tried to look for lists also of books that might involve where a Winter Olympic sport, a winter sport might be a very important part of the plot or might have an important part in the plot of the book. And I was really struggling to find one because the books that got recommended to me, especially by ChatGPT, there were some books that were quite obscure, I never heard about, and a lot of them, they either were super expensive where I live, or they weren't available where I live, or there were some that just felt like books that I absolutely wouldn't like. There was one which is an obscure murder mystery from the 2010s. I think it was indie published. It's still available on Amazon, on Kindle. I didn't want to read this one because it was a murder mystery and it dealt with a lot of crime. And one of my only trigger when it comes to books and story is that I'm in a phase in my life where I don't like to read or watch anything relating to crime or very dark books that takes place in real world, and it takes place on our current time, like in modern times, contemporary times, like contemporary crime books. That's my one trigger. I don't like to read about it, so that was one, I think a murder mystery in the Swiss Alps where there was some kind of slasher going on, and that's just not the kind of book I wanted to read. There were others where it felt like either the plot were also things I didn't want, not that I didn't want to read, but I felt like the stories would be stories I would really hate or they weren't available. There were some that I wasn't sure if they were AI generated or not, so I just ruled those out because I don't want to read an AI generated book at the moment, especially an AI generated book where they are not disclosing that it is AI generated. So I decided to go for just a classic hockey romance. By the way, before I forget, if you have any recommendation for books involving winter Olympic sports or winter sports that aren't ice skating, ice dancing, or like hockey, and that doesn't deal with like true crime or crime in general, please let me know, because I don't want to talk about crime. That's my one trigger warning. Reading darker books when it comes to like fantasy or sci-fi, for me it's okay. Reading books, contemporary books that takes place in like from 2015 until now, that deal with crimes, especially heavy crimes, it's the one thing that has been triggering me. It's one of the reasons why I haven't been reading many thrillers lately, because I don't want to be triggered while reading my books as a hobby. But if you have any book recommendation that deals with a winter sport, like it uses like bobsled or like skeleton, or some other book where only people that lives in winter countries, in countries that it's snowing most of the time, will know what that sport is about. If you have any recommendation for books that involve this kind of sports that isn't AI generated, isn't super dark / deals with a lot of crime, please let me know in the comment section, because I was looking for them and I was struggling to find them. So now let's talk about the second book that I'm going to be reading in this video. I started to pick up a hockey romance that I had on my TBR and that I kind of keep forgetting that is on my TBR. And I ended up picking up The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson, which I later found out I'm pretty sure this is part of a series, which is not ideal because I'm in the middle of so many series. And this is another series to add to the list of series I'm in the middle of and that I need to continue reading. But basically, in The Game Changer, we follow Delilah Baker, and as you can tell, she's a baker. She has this cable show. She has a show on a cable network. She's super popular, but recently her views have been going down, and she's worried she might lose her TV show, that the network might shut down, might cancel her TV show because the views are not great at the moment. And we follow this guy, which at the part where I am in the book, you're going to get to there, but we still haven't met him, but I think his name is Ian. He's a hockey player, and he has some problems with his reputation, and that is struggling the way he's playing his job as a hockey player, but also it's having negative consequences to the team. So the team decides to try and fix his image. And basically, I believe Delilah, her brother, is also a hockey player, and she apparently, according to the description of the book, she will pitch to the executives of the cable network to do a partnership with the hockey team so they can attract sports fans to watch the show as well, and in this way grow their viewership. And apparently they send Ian to one of the episodes. Ian apparently is her brother's best friend and teammate, and apparently she have had a crush on him for many years, like for decades, probably ever since they were like teenagers or something like that. And I believe there might be a fake dating scheme that might develop. Now, this is all allegedly. This is all that I could understand from what is written on the description of this book, because I'm 6 pages into this book, which is, according to Kindle, 3% through this book. And I'm not sure, because when it comes to romance, I like slow burn, I like funny, I like things that might be a little bit more literary, more Emily Henry-esque, and this book is not giving that so far. It's giving very Hallmark movie-esque. There was a little paragraph, a few dialogues between the main character, between Delilah and her brother, that had a comedic undertone to it. But 6 pages into this book, I could be very wrong because I'm only 6 pages into this book. I just started this book. But my first impression is that this book is feeling very Hallmark movie-esque, which is something that I personally don't like. It's not my favorite kind of book. So it could change. It could turn into something I might enjoy, but from the fact that she's a baker to like just the way it is written, the descriptions of what is going on, the way the characters are acting, there's something that is feeling not off, but it is something that is giving me kind of the vibes that I might not love this book. But so far there are just some little things about the writing, the characters, the dialogue that it's giving the vibes that I might not love this book. It might not be the kind of book I enjoy. It's not necessarily bad, it's just not something, not my style. But again, I'm 6 pages in, things might change, things will probably change. But that's my first impression about this book, so we need to continue reading The Game Changer. Like, I'm curious to see where this leads, because I also have another book by Lana Ferguson on my TBR. I have, I think, The Fake Maid by Lana Ferguson on my TBR. So I hope I enjoy it, but so far, like 6 pages in, it doesn't look that promising. It almost makes me wonder if I should have picked another book from my TBR, because I do have other books, other hockey books on my TBR, either in standalones, sequels. I have a lot of sequels I need to get through, but I didn't want to pick a sequel. I also had Unsteady by, I forgot the name of the author, I think it's Peyton Corinne, but I had Unsteady where it involves a hockey player, but it is college hockey, and a figure skater, but I didn't want to pick that one because I already read like a figure skating book, also Unsteady. Apparently it's very emotional, and I'm currently, as of right now, I'm not in the mood to read an emotional book that takes place in like real world, an emotional romance. I'm just not in the vibe for that. So I decided to pick The Game Changer, because also I keep forgetting it's on my TBR. And so far, I'm curious. Let's see where it leads. Hopefully it will change, and hopefully I will enjoy this book. I finished reading The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson, and I can tell you that it definitely changed from the first 6 pages. My feelings for this book definitely changed after 6 pages of reading this book. But let's first talk about what The Game Changer is about. Essentially, The Game Changer is, the plot of The Game Changer is what I told you in the previous clip. In The Game Changer, we follow Lila Baker. She is this baker, and she has a cable show. She has a baking show at a local cable network in Boston, in the United States. And recently the views for her TV show have been going down, which is making her producer kind of concerned. They are worried that the executives at this cable network might think about canceling the show, because her contract is about to expire. And even though she is still one of the top TV shows on this network, they are worried that the TV show might be cancelled because the audience keeps going down. And then we have Ian, who he's a hockey player, and essentially Ian is Lila's best friend's brother. They're also childhood best friends, and he also used to be her teenage crush. She used to have this massive crush on him when she was a teenager. But Ian, around 6 years ago, he got involved in a controversy, and he ended up getting a trade. He moved to Canada, but now he reached a point, he's around 33 years old. He's 5 years older than Lila, and he's around 33 years old. He's aware that his career he will need to retire in a few years, and he would ideally like to retire in his hometown, but also playing with his best friend, who is Lila's brother. But when he gets back to the city, when he gets back to Boston, quickly that reputation, the controversy comes back to bite him, and he needs to deal with that, and the team also wants to deal with that to stop people from saying all the horrible stuff that they keep saying about him. And because Lila's brother works with the team, he also plays for the team, he gives her this idea that maybe she could try to strike a deal with the team. He might try to help her strike a deal with the team, where to help both parties, she would get one of the players would go on her show and bake with her, and in this way they might attract the sports viewers, sports fans to watch her TV show. But on the day where they're set to record this TV show, the person that walks in on the studio set is Ian, and for the past 6 years, Lila and Ian, they kind of lost touch with each other, they lost contact, they haven't talked, they haven't seen each other in 6 years, and Lila thought that crush that she had as a teenager was long gone, but the moment he steps foot on the studio, the crush comes back and to bite her as well. Her crush comes back in full force, but also the moment Ian sets eye on her, he starts feeling different about her. So they are close, but things are kind of awkward because their feelings changed. But after they record the show and the TV show airs, the viewers, they notice there is some tension and they start speculating that the two might be dating, and then the network and the team, they talk with both of them. They talk with Delilah and they talk with Ian. They say, hey, you're already friends, and people are already speculating about both of you. People are also really shipping both of you. So maybe we can't really force you to do something. We can't really tell you who you can date. But maybe you both could start fake dating. You both could be seen in public, kind of getting a little bit too close. You never really confirm you're dating. You just make people speculate. And in this way, you can stop the rumors about Ian. You can stop the speculation and the whole controversy that is affecting Ian as a person, as a player, but also is affecting the team. But also you can kind of help with the audience. You can help with increasing the views from Delilah's TV show. So essentially this is a brother's best friend, childhood friends to lovers, fake dating romance, and that's the setup for the story. As I said before, in the previous clip I said I was worried because it was feeling a little bit too hallmarky, excessively hallmarky for my taste. It's very your kind of, it's a rom-com. It's a stereotypical rom-com, but it is definitely better than I was expecting. Overall, I ended up giving The Game Changer 3.75 stars. It's not a bad book at all. I think the characters, especially because this is not common in romance books, which is crazy, but these characters, they really know how to communicate. After they get together, there isn't a third act breakup in this book because they talk through things. They talk with each other. So there isn't really a miscommunication. So if you hate the miscommunication trope, this might be the book for you because these characters talk and they are great for each other. And this book also has a minor plot in the background going on. You also have very lovable characters. You have a villain, a very distinct villain, which isn't exactly affecting the romance, but you have a very distinct villain in the story. But you also have really lovable characters. Most of the characters are quite lovable. Jack, who is Lila's brother, he's wonderful, and now I find out that probably there will be a book about him. This might be a series, which means The Game Changer is a new series I'm in the middle of. I'm in the middle right now of way too many series and I need to read through them. But apparently, The Game Changer, it's now a series because there will be a sequel following Jack, who is Lila's brother, and Abigail, or Abby, who is another character in this book. I'm not going to say exactly what she is in the character because you need to find out, you need to read this book or later read the sequel. But essentially, there will be a series. Am I desperate to read the sequel? Will I be buying the sequel the moment it releases? Because I believe it still wasn't released. It's about to be released. No, I'm not crazy to read the sequel, but I'm curious because those are two characters. Like, Jack is a really interesting character. I really liked him as a character and I'm curious. They have an interesting dynamic, so I'm curious. And this book could be a great palate cleanser. But I'm not desperate to read it just because I didn't necessarily love. For me, what lacked in The Game Changer overall, I think it is a good book. It is a good romance novel. I would recommend reading it if the premise sounds interesting to you, if you are okay with spice, because this book is quite spicy. But for me, what lacked in the Game Changer, and I think like it missed a spark, but the spark for me, it wasn't there because I feel like it needed to have a little bit more tension between the characters, a little bit more of a slow burn, because I just needed a little bit more tension between the characters to build up to the romance, to like for them to crossing the line from going to friends to lovers. So that's my only complaint about this book. But overall, it's just your average romance novel, and I liked it. I just think it lacked a spark, it lacked the tension to take this book to the next level. So I ended up giving the Game Changer 3.75 stars. And yes, that's it for this video. If you read any of these books, please let me know your opinions about them in the comments. Let's chat about it in the comment section. Also, if you have any recommendations for books involving Winter Olympic sports, hopefully, ideally, one that involves one of those more niche sports, one of those sports where basically only people in cold weather countries practice it and knows about it, like, I don't know, bobsled, skeleton, lunge, like one of those very niche sports, like one of those skiing, what is it called? I think, not triathlon, but tri-skiing? The one where they do multiple styles of skiing, something that is very Winter Olympic coded, very Winter Olympic sports coded. If you have any recommendations for books like that, please let me know in the comment section, because I was asking even ChatGPT, and not even ChatGPT could give me a recommendation, so maybe you do have one, because I think humans might be better at giving book recommendations than AI, in my opinion. But yes, this is it for this video. If you liked it, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you with another one very, very soon. Bye!